Chapter 2, Recovery Basics. Buying a new or used car is a big step for a lot of folks. We all need good, dependable transportation. A wise man or woman looks at their financial situation and decides whether or not they can afford to pay before they sign on the dotted line for a big purchase like an automobile, a truck, boat, motorcycle, or whatever. And every time you sign a contract to purchase a vehicle, somewhere in that contract is mentioned the possibility that if you're late on your payments, the finance company has a right to come and get the vehicle, that their collateral. We rarely ever read all of the paperwork, but somewhere in that fine print it says if you miss payments, the lender has a right to come and take possession of the vehicle. The lender is not usually going to come personally and take the vehicle. They hire a reputable, responsible recovery agent or company to find and secure their collateral. The recovery agent's responsibility is to locate and take possession of the lender's collateral without damage, destruction, or disturbance. Nobody plans on having to let a vehicle go back or to have it repossessed, but sometimes things happen. They might lose their job or they go through a divorce. Illness might keep them from work. Any number of things can happen. When events like that happen, a few people, will look at their financial situation and realize that they can't keep up the payments on the vehicle like they had planned to do. They call the finance company to try to make payment arrangements. If they're not able to work things out, they may take the vehicle back to the lender, drop it off there. Sometimes they'll tell the lender to come pick up the vehicle. That is considered a voluntary repossession. And I've picked up many voluntaries throughout the years. They simply say, come get the car, or they might leave it somewhere with the keys in it and tell us where to pick it up. So most people never have to deal with the repo man because they stay current on their payments. Even people who can't make the payments and their vehicle gets repossessed usually don't have to deal with the repo man because the recovery agent simply sneaks in, quietly takes the vehicle, and leaves without ever talking to them. The best repossession is to locate the vehicle, pick up the vehicle, and get out. It's called hook and book. If you hook up the vehicle and book out of the area. I'm going to focus mostly on vehicle repossessions because that's what I did. I know other people repossess furniture and other things, but I repossess mostly vehicles, cars, trucks, campers, trailers, motorhomes, motorcycles, all Harley-Davidson credit motorcycles for Alabama, boats, jet skis, Kenworth trucks, box trucks, you name it, and I've probably repossessed at least one at some time or another. Most repossessions are boring, relatively speaking. Most repossessions involve driving to an address, checking the VIN number on the vehicle, hooking up the vehicle, and leaving. The VIN, V-I-N, is the vehicle identification number. Every vehicle has one, and every one is different. It gives all the information about that vehicle. It is the fingerprint for that vehicle. No other vehicle will have that same VIN number. The VIN is 17 digits long, made of numbers and letters. It can be found on several places on the vehicle. The main one we're interested in is embossed on a plate inside the vehicle's dash, inside the dash, on the dashboard. It's on the driver's side. It's almost impossible to read the VIN number from inside the vehicle. It sits where the windshield meets the dashboard and is visible from outside the vehicle. When you check the VIN, you really only have to check the last 4 or 6 digits or numbers. If they match your paperwork, that's your vehicle. You check the VIN, hook up the vehicle, and leave. That's it. That's probably what happens 80% of the time. It's the other 20% of the time that makes asset recovery interesting. It's that other 20% that requires some thought and a little more effort. And it's that other 20% that could get you shot or very seriously killed. There are specific laws that cover repossessions and the repossession industry. There's this thing called the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act The FDCPA. It governs what you can and cannot do when repossessing a vehicle, and there'll be a copy of that at the end of the book. You can't harass a debtor on their job. You can't threaten violence against a debtor in order to recover a vehicle. You can't use obscene or profane language against the debtor. Privacy concerns dictate that you can't let other people know that the debtor has not paid their bill. The repo man has to be careful in talking to neighbors. We cannot let a third party know why we're looking for the debtor. The recovery agent cannot continually call and annoy a debtor. You can't abuse them or harass them. You can't continue to contact the debtor or repossess the vehicle if the debtor has contacted a lawyer and filed for bankruptcy. Bankruptcy protection is sacred in the debt and asset recovery business. Once they say they got a lawyer or they've filed bankruptcy, that's it. You don't do anything else. According to the FDCPA, if you need to make contact with the debtor, you can only legally contact them between the hours of 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. Monday through Friday. So there are rules that govern the repossession industry. The repo man needs to know the law to avoid breach of peace and a potential lawsuit. Breach of peace has been defined as disturbing the peace. It has been defined as disorderly conduct. When things are not progressing smoothly, you're going to know when breach of peace is about to show up. You know, if things are getting rough and you know it's beginning to be a little bit of dissension and turmoil, you better watch out for breach of peace. That's when you might want to back off and plot another course. It's hard to define it, but you'll know it when it's happening or if it's about to happen. If there's a conflict, there's probable breach of peace, and it is to be avoided as much as possible. The repo man or woman needs to know the law. What tips the scale in favor of the repo man is the fact that most debtors do not know the law when it comes to repossessions. Most people do not know the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act even exists. And I counted on the fact that most debtors don't know that there's a law regarding repossessions. And, you know, knowing that most debtors don't know their rights can make a repossession easier. It makes it a whole lot easier. For instance, in Alabama, if a debtor comes out and tells you that you cannot take the vehicle, then you legally can't take that vehicle. If they order you off their property, you have to leave without the vehicle. Now, once they come out and object to the repossession, that attempt is over. If you stay on their property or take their vehicle after they've objected, you have violated the law and committed breach of peace. You cannot legally take that vehicle at that time. In fact, they could come out, tell you to leave, and go back in the house, leaving you standing there alone in the driveway, and legally, you cannot take the vehicle at that time. That recovery attempt is legally over. But the thing is, the debtors don't know that. If they did object to the repossession, to make it legal, the recovery agent could leave, drive around the block, and come back to the very same house 5 minutes later and attempt to pick that same vehicle up again. That would be totally legal. The first objection doesn't carry over to the next attempt. I have been asked to leave by a debtor, and I've done so, only to come back a few minutes later and secure the vehicle on the next attempt. The story of a van in Sheffield is a great example, and we'll pick that up in the next chapter. Let's see if I can get this thing turned off here. Where'd it go? There it is.